What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for week number 3 NFL picks. I love the NFL, but something I don't love about the NFL is how quickly we have to turn around from such an exciting week of football and then immediately take your headspace from review to preview. Like, that's my problem. I gotta learn and I gotta get back on track with the flipping of the switch when it comes to the NFL season. Going from an exciting week number 2 to maybe even a better week number 3. Week number 2 is pretty wild too because there was so many injuries. So on that front, hopefully, we could get a little healthier in week number 3. Stay healthy, please. Thank you. And for everybody's fantasy team's sake, and for the NFL players, just please stay upright. Please? Can we? Thank you. Week number 3 is here. It's a very exciting week. We have a lot of great matchups. We have the Seahawks and the Cowboys after the Seahawks just had an epic Sunday night football game versus the Patriots. We have maybe the game of the year, which is the Kansas City Chiefs traveling to Baltimore to take on the MVP Lamar Jackson. The Super Bowl champs versus the MVP. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. We have Aaron Rodgers versus Drew Brees in New Orleans. We have the Rams and the Bills, who are both undefeated, so we have quite a few showdowns. And I feel in week number 3, we are going to learn a lot about these upper echelon teams, at least within the first month of this season. Before we get started breaking down these week 3 NFL games, make sure you do spike that like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL weekly previews and picks every single week of the NFL season. Also, get in that comment section, whether you're here live with me right now or after the fact watching this once it's gone up on YouTube. Let me know your opinion on these games, who you're picking, who you're not picking, who you're high on this week, maybe some of your bets of the week in week number 3. Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, I do have one thing to shout out before we do get to the Thursday Nighter, which is an interesting game, probably more interesting now than it was before the season, which is the Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville Jags. Before we get to that game, though, guys, make sure you do go over and follow our Instagram. We've just recently been booting it up since the last couple of weeks, and a lot of people have been supporting, but if you're not already there following on Instagram, go follow us on Instagram because there's exclusive content over there. Ultra's working hard. Kevin Durkant, myself, putting together pieces of content for you guys that are exclusive to that platform. Today, we put out a few clips and also the top 5 MVP candidates right now in the NFL. So if you're interested in that, do go over to Instagram and follow The Bottom Line View, the same name as the channel, and you can get exclusive content over there. Also, if you're into more exclusive content from this channel, do subscribe to the Patreon. $3 a month is the first tier. All right, guys, so let's start off with the Thursday night football matchup. That is the Miami Dolphins at the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a interesting game because I feel like we have Gardner Minshew, who's kind of taken the NFL by storm. He's better than I think everybody anticipated. So far, he's been, arguably an MVP candidate. That's how good he's played thus far. Because remember, preseason expectations for the Jags, including my own, this team was supposed to suck. They were not supposed to be competitive. They were supposed to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. It seems like the Jets have completely stripped that away from Jacksonville, but Jacksonville's been better than expected. Why? Because they have an efficient quarterback who's very accurate, can move a little bit, extend plays, and make magic on the move, and can kind of do things outside of the system. And then you look on the opposite side, and you kind of have the older version of Gardner Minshew. I'm talking about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I feel like Minshew is the young version of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Like, I don't think Minshew's ever going to be a top 10 quarterback, but I see them as similar players. They're very feisty. You know, they're always going to be in games. They make plays. They're willing to allow their receivers to go up and make big-time plays and catches. And they can beat just about anybody when they're on their game. So it's kind of like old Minshew versus young Fitzpatrick. That's the way I look at it. Fitzpatrick versus Gardner Minshew. The line is -3 for Jacksonville because Jacksonville is at home. This is the biggest worry I have for Miami. Byron Jones is out. He has been ruled out for this game. That's huge. That's huge. And I do think that allows DJ Chark to probably have one of his bigger games of the season. He's been a little quiet thus far. I expected more out of him in the first 2 weeks. And I do think people are sleeping on Jacksonville's targets around their young quarterback Minshew. You're talking about Cole or Connolly or even the plethora of running backs they can throw at you. Tyler Eifert as well. And this offensive line hasn't done a bad job of protecting Minshew at all. I do think Minshew right now is the better quarterback. They are at home. And I think their defense, while it's not great, Miami's hasn't been great either. They got ran all over by New England. They got passed all over by the Bills. So just in looking their first 2 week performances, Jacksonville beat the Colts and nearly beat the Titans. So I'm going to go with the Jags here. I think they're probably going to have an exciting game in Jacksonville this week. I think what tips the scales for me is the fact that Jones is out. And I think whenever you take a cornerback away from the scheme that Miami is trying to run defensively, it's going to significantly hinder their defensive performance as we saw a week ago versus Buffalo. I think Minshew can be efficient enough and effective enough to move the football on Miami. While on the flip side, they are similar quarterbacks. Fitzpatrick will make his plays. Devontae Parker, Preston Williams, they will make their plays. But Fitzpatrick is more prone to turning the football over. CJ Henderson has been a stud on defense for Jacksonville. And that's why I'm going to take Jacksonville to win this game in a close one. This is not a game I'm betting on. 1, because it's Thursday night football. And 2, because both of these teams aren't very good. And I never like to bet on 2 teams that are not very good. But I do think Jacksonville's going to come out the winner here. So I got Jacksonville winning. And I'll take Jacksonville as well to cover the 3 points. All right, so that's game number 1, Thursday night football. Probably not going to be a big rating, but probably going to be an exciting game for football fans. The Chicago Bears at the Atlanta Falcons. Now, we have a 2-0 team facing an 0-2 team, yet the 0-2 team is favored in the game. So that kind of speaks to what Vegas thinks of Mitchell Trubisky and what Vegas thinks of the Bears in general. Now, Chicago, they kind of don't look like a 2-0 team. I mean, the first game, they beat Detroit in a comeback, which was impressive, but that was more Detroit kind of just falling all over themselves than anything else. And then Atlanta, kind of blowing their own lead versus Dallas in week 2, and Chicago barely beating the Giants in week 2, where they could have easily lost that game, even though Saquon left the game and kind of stunned the Giants there for a bit. This is interesting because I think you have a battle between Matt Ryan and a pretty good defense. And I'm intrigued to see that matchup, especially in Atlanta where it's in a dome. It should be kind of a good atmosphere, and it's going to be weird to see the dome as well. Like, I know we saw it week 1, but with no fans. Like, I thought that was so odd when we watched New Orleans without fans. Like, I think the dome just takes it to a different level without fans. It becomes, like, dead quiet. And I look at these matchups. I think there's two probable matchups that will determine the game. How well does Mitchell Trubisky distribute the football and pass the football versus this sketchy secondary of Atlanta? And can Atlanta's offensive line hold up versus the Bears' pass rush with Khalil Mack and Rob Quinn and Akeem Hicks? So those are kind of the two prime matchups. Julio Jones may miss this game. He has like a hamstring, I believe, injury. So that is kind of concerning from Atlanta's perspective. Initially I wrote down Atlanta, but the more I kind of think about it, it's hard for me to ride with Atlanta because I think Chicago has shown better through 2 weeks. I think their defense is far better. And while I do believe Atlanta has a better quarterback, I think this is going to be a close game. I could see either team winning, especially because the game's in Atlanta. But Julio not being there concerns me. If Julio is not there, I think the Bears win. So I'm going to take the Bears. I'm not confident about it. I mean, I got to give them some credit for being 2-0. And I do think they do the best job out of the three teams that have played Atlanta thus far, defending them. But I don't still have much confidence that Trubisky will be great because, yes, Atlanta's secondary is not very good, and their pass rush hasn't really shown up. But is that more to do with the fact that they played Dallas and Seattle than anything else? Like, yeah, their defense looks bad. Yes, I wish they would switch things up defensively from a scheme perspective, be a little bit more creative and less simple. But, like, is that just because they played Dak and Wilson? Like, Dak and Wilson, the Cowboys offense, the Seahawks offense, they're going to rip up most defenses in general. So really, how bad is Atlanta's defense? And how good is Chicago's offense? That's the concerning part. Because if Matt Ryan has it clicking, Atlanta will win this game. If Chicago's defense does not come out and play a good game, if their offense just is not clicking, if Trubisky's having a bad game, there's no chance they win this game because Atlanta's at least going to score 20. So I have my concerns, but I'm just going to go with the team that I think has been more consistent thus far. And I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to take Chicago. I'm going to take them +3. I would feel more confident if this game was on or outside in Chicago on the grass, but it is what it is. So I'm going to take Chicago. As you can tell, I'm not confident about it, but we'll see. I think Atlanta, it's a big week for them. Like, their backs are against the wall. What's their response to that loss? Do they come out firing? Do they come out with motivation? Or do they come out just giving up? Their attitude is down. That's a big question. It's a huge question. Chicago at least is coming in with confidence. We know that. So that's that game. I don't know, guys. Let me know what you think on that one. The next game, Los Angeles Rams at the Buffalo Bills. This is one of the games of the week, as I alluded to at the start. Buffalo is -2.5 in this game. Buffalo is at home, and this is two 2-0 teams. We have kind of a young offensive genius in Sean McVay playing a young defensive genius in Sean McDermott. Now, the Bills have been 2-0, but I feel they've been less impressive than LA. LA's beat Dallas. LA's beat Philadelphia. They beat Philadelphia on the road, although I don't think the Eagles are very good. You know, they kind of dominated that game, and offensively, they've been humming. Like, they've been really clicking, and no matter what defenses have thrown at them, they have not been slowed down yet. Buffalo, on the other hand, you know, yeah, they beat Miami and the Jets, but Miami and the Jets are like 2 of the 5 worst teams in the league. So I kind of want to see how Buffalo stacks up in that regard. Now, LA does have to travel across the country. It is outside. It's not in perfect conditions. LA usually fares better in a dome or in perfect conditions or on a fast track because that's kind of how their offense operates. Josh Allen, to me, is the better quarterback. He's a bigger playmaker at the position than Jared Goff, but Jared Goff is playing good football right now. Defensively, Buffalo having their linebackers back will be big. If Edmonds and Milano can go, that's going to be a big part of if they can slow down this offense or not in LA. I don't really know, though, if Buffalo has the defensive line to really overwhelm the Rams up front, because that's kind of been the disaster of the Rams, has been when their offensive line does not perform, it kind of all falls apart and Jared Goff starts to make mistakes, and when he's under pressure, he seems to just absolutely unravel. But we have not seen that thus far this season. We've seen a Sean McVay that's had a chip on his shoulder, been calling some of the best games of his career through 2 weeks, has been allowing Jared Goff to go through easy progressions, make easy wide open throws, scheme up plays for him where it's just like in the rhythm of the offense. He's been feeling himself, Sean McVay, and you could argue right now Sean McVay has been the best coach in the league. But I do like McDermott. I do like what I've seen out of Stephon Diggs. That Diggs versus Ramsey matchup is going to be something special. That's going to be very interesting. And how does Buffalo go about slowing down Aaron Donald? That's also going to be fascinating to watch. I think this is the bigger test to Buffalo, because I want to see Buffalo take on an offense like this with some of the defensive star players they have. And I want to see McDermott go toe-to-toe with McVay in terms of mind on mind. I am going to side with Buffalo right now, but I don't feel great about it. I could see either team winning this game. The reason I'm going with Buffalo is because I think McDermott will have some solutions and will slow down Goff a bit. He'll make life a little bit more difficult on Goff than the other defenses have thus far. I think McVay has just overwhelmed Schwartz, overwhelmed Nolan, and kind of just had his way with the game plan. But I don't think that's going to be the case here in week number 3. I think McDermott's going to come in with an equally awesome game plan, and that is going to slow down the Rams. I mean, the Rams, I still do have questions about their ability to stretch teams out vertically, go down the field and attack you. And because Buffalo, as long as they have those linebackers, are quick sideline to sideline, they're good at the second level, they're fast, flowing horizontally, I think they can take away a lot of the play action and a lot of the run game stuff that the Rams are going to throw at them. On the opposite side, if you avoid Ramsey, and you can block Darnold half the time, not Sam Darnold, Aaron Donald half the time, because you can't block him all the time, but half the time, Josh Allen can escape. He can make plays outside the system, even if the Rams have a great game plan defensively. Cole Beasley will contribute. John Brown will contribute as they have thus far. And I think the Bills are the slightly more talented team with the better playmaker at the quarterback position, and that's why I'm going to take them to win, with the fact that they are at home, with the fact that the Rams have to travel. So, yeah, I'm going to go Bills. But again, another game that I'm not super confident in, because I do like both teams, and both teams right now are looking like playoff caliber teams. But the thing is with Buffalo is why I'm not kind of like, yes, for sure the Bills. It's just the fact that they've beat Miami and the Jets. Like, how much can we really take away from that? So, I have the Bills. I have Josh Allen to keep it rolling here to go to 3-0, but this could be certainly a game that they do fall short to the LA Rams. All right, that is one of the games of the week. I'm very excited to watch that one. The Washington football team at the Cleveland Browns. Now, this line actually surprised me that it was 7 points. Because Cleveland, I just don't, and you guys are going to get this right off the top, I just don't think Cleveland is a team that I'm willing to say I'm going to lay a whole touchdown and an extra point versus anyone. Like, just the fact that they have Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield in week 2, yes, he looked better, but he wasn't great at all. Like, he was clearly the second best quarterback in the game on Thursday Night Football. They do have extra time to prepare for Washington in this game. Their offensive line is better. I think this is a game last year that Cleveland would have lost because I think Washington's defensive line would have overwhelmed the Browns' offensive line. But because the Browns are such an effective running team, I think they're going to be able to kind of back off Chase Young and those pass rushers into thinking twice before they tee off at the quarterback, allowing Mayfield a little bit of time to make his reads and make his throws. A big factor here is, can they continue to get OBJ involved? Because as we saw on Thursday night, I mean, the guy is awesome. And if you just give him opportunities and throw the ball his direction, he can win a game at that position for you. And Washington clearly does not have a cornerback that can line up on OBJ one-on-one and just say, okay, I got him. Like, no. There's only like 5 guys like that in the league, if that, right? Odell's just got to hit 1 or 2 big plays. Baker's just got to hit 1 or 2 big plays in the passing game this entire game. If they can do that and they can run the ball effectively and their defense can do enough, like, I'm not super confident in Cleveland's defense. As we saw, they got kind of torn apart. If Myles Garrett is not getting to the quarterback, they are not great. But Denzel Ward is going to be matched up with Terry McLaurin, which is great for them matchup-wise. I think the Browns are just the more talented team. Maybe Washington has the coaching edge here. But because Washington doesn't have a very good offense that I have any faith in at all, and I think we saw that a week ago, I'm not confident that they're going to be able to pull this one out in Cleveland. But I do think their defense keeps it close enough to where I'm going to take the 7 points, because I just don't think Baker is good enough for me to trust them, Cleveland, to cover an entire touchdown. Like, I could see this game going down to the wire. And if they do cover, I think it's because Haskins has a really bad game and turns the football over and allows Cleveland to have short fields and score. But I don't think, Washington is just going to get run over like the Bengals did last week. So that's going to make Mayfield make more throws than he did versus the Bengals. So you kind of see how I see it. The Bengals should win, the Browns should win this game. But I'm just not confident that they will cover. All right. Next game. Tennessee Titans, the Minnesota Vikings. Titans are -2.5. They are on the road in this game. But I think the thing that people are overestimating is the Minnesota home field advantage. We saw it in week 1. It literally did not exist without the fans in the stadium. That stadium was made in a way, structurally, from an architecture perspective, that it created the most volume in the league when fans were in the stadium. So it actually hurt road teams when they visited and helped their defense. But because no fans are at the game, it completely washes that advantage away. And if you watch that Packer game, there was no sound, no volume, nothing to help that defense. And the Vikings need all the help they can get, because I think right now they're one of the 5 worst teams in football. The Titans, on the other hand, you guys saw the video. You guys saw the clip on Instagram. Lock it and throw it. Lock it and throw it. What do I mean by that? The Titans, lock them in for a playoff spot right now. They will be 3-0 after they head to Minnesota and steamroll the Vikings. The Vikings are still getting respect because of what they did last year, but it's not last year. It's not 2019, it's 2020. The Vikings, their pass rush is not the same. Their secondary is just as bad, if not worse, than Atlanta's. Their offense is horrendous. It might be worse than their defense. Kirk Cousins looks like a bottom 5 QB right now. Their offensive line can't block. And really all they have is Adam Thielen and Dalvin Cook. Once you take away Dalvin Cook, they got nothing. The Titans are a good run defending team. And even if their secondary is the weakness and concern of their team, who is Tennessee worried about Minnesota throwing the ball to down the field? Nobody and nothing. And the way Cousins is playing, I don't think he has enough in the tank right now, the way that he's performing, to just dink and dunk his way up the field 2 points. I just haven't seen it thus far this year. And I do think Tannehill is the better quarterback in this game, which is something that I don't think enough people realize. And he's probably a borderline top 10 quarterback right now. While I do think Derrick Henry will also have success. So I'm going with the Titans. And this is probably going to be one of my bets of the week, which you can find on Patreon. I give you 5 bets of the week. Again, I win 60% because the Saints suck. But 60% is pretty good for best bets. But the Titans, probably you get the free bet here. I think the Titans are going to cover the 2.5, and they probably will be one of my best bets. I just don't know what people see in the Vikings right now. Nothing about their football team is exciting. Nothing about their football team has people worried game plan wise at a coaching perspective for a different team or another team that they're playing. And yes, the Titans haven't looked amazing through 2 weeks, but every area of their team is better than every area of the Vikings. Like, what area of this game are you saying that the Vikings have a clear advantage? I just don't see it. I'm going with the Titans to cover. The Las Vegas Raiders at the New England Patriots. This is also probably quietly one of the games of the week as well. The Raiders are 2-0. They just went and beat the Saints. And New England came down to one play, possibly beating who a lot of people right now think the best team in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks, in Seattle on the 1 yard line. They were 1 yard away from beating Seattle in Seattle, while the Raiders beat the Saints. So this is actually a really, really good game. And I think we're going to learn more about the Raiders in this game than anything else. Because, yeah, you can win a game at home versus the Saints without Michael Thomas. Your first home game ever in Vegas. Yeah, okay, you can do that. That's not extremely surprising, although it threw me through a loop for sure. But you can maybe do that once. But can you travel to New England and beat the Patriots? That's a true litmus test. That's a true test for the Raiders. Can they go to New England and beat a good defense? And the way that Cam Newton is playing right now, can they do that? If they can do that, then they're for real. They're legit. We can officially say, okay, the Raiders are business. They're in business right now. The way I look at this game is I think the Raiders will stick around in the game, but I do not have enough faith in their defense to slow down Cam Newton the way Cam Newton is playing. Cam Newton is playing at an MVP level right now. He's one of the 5 best quarterbacks right now in the game. From a passing perspective, he's on point. He's accurate. He's not missing throws. From a running perspective, he looks back. He looks athletic. He looks mobile. His pocket presence is phenomenal. His downfield and short accuracy, his recognition of this offense is only getting better. And guys are starting to kind of gain confidence on that side of the ball. The offensive line is playing phenomenal. N'Keal Harry is starting to get involved. Of course, there's Edelman. And they're only adding back other players like James White. Damian Harris is coming back soon, although not in this game. So they're going to continue to add a little bit of pieces and flavor to this offense as the weeks wear on, because Cam Newton is just 2 weeks into this actual playbook, 2 weeks into a regular season with the Patriots, with McDaniels, and with Belichick. So every week we're going to see something new and a layer added to this offense, which I'm excited about. But when you look at the Raiders defense, I mean, they're just not good. Like, they really have no pass rush. We saw Seattle's pass rush could get nowhere near Cam Newton for much of the game, and Seattle blitzed a lot in that game and still really couldn't get after Cam Newton or disrupt his rhythm. What makes you think the Raiders will do so? Their secondary is weaker, much weaker than Seattle's, and they struggled to defend Drew Brees, who only throws the ball 10 yards and in. And Cam can stretch you out, even though he doesn't have many weapons that can do that. On the flip side, I do think New England is more capable of defending the Raiders' passing attack, specifically Darren Waller. Bill Belichick's not going to enter this game like the Saints, the way the Saints were taken advantage of, and say, yeah, Darren Waller, we're just going to let him have one-on-ones all game. No. He's going to take Darren Waller out of the game. He's going to force the other guys, Derek Carr, to throw the ball to. Now, where the Raiders do have an advantage here is I think they can run the ball on New England, but the question is, can they get a lead? If the Raiders can get a lead in this game early, then they got a shot, because that's going to force New England's defense off balance. And then they can keep them off balance from there. But if New England gets a lead early on, then the Raiders are going to be forced to pass the ball more. And that is exactly not where you want to be versus the Patriots, specifically with this group of weaponry. Like, yes, Seattle moved the ball through the air versus New England, but that's Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, and DK Metcalf, not Derek Carr, Henry Ruggs, Bryan Edwards, right? It's like totally different. The Raiders need their running game to be able to help their passing game open up. But that is the key to the game for the Raiders. They got to leap out to a lead to be able to keep Belichick and this defense on their toes. So just from a matchup perspective, I think the Raiders' offense is pretty good. I think it's legit, but I don't think they have the weapons on the outside at receiver to make enough plays versus this great secondary, and I don't trust their defense yet to defend Cam Newton. So I'm going to pick the Patriots to win this game. But hey, I'll take the 6 points, because I do think 6 points is quite a bit. Maybe this is a letdown game for the Raiders after they beat the Saints, and maybe they do get blown out, but I'm not necessarily counting on that. I don't really think that's going to happen, just because the Raiders are so good on the offensive line that they should be able to move the ball decently well enough to keep this game within one score. So I'm going to go New England, and I'm going to take the 6 points. I'm going to take the 6 points. I think this will be a fairly entertaining game. So I'm going to go like New England if I had to give a score like 30 to 23. 30-23, 30-24, something like that. This might be wrong for me to take the 6 points. But at the end of the day, I do think that the Raiders can keep it close enough. Maybe they get a touchdown at the end of the game to cover, but you know, that's a difficult one. I'd probably stay away from that because I think Vegas kind of has hit that on the head. It's going to be somewhere around a touchdown. It's going to be somewhere around there where the line kind of falls. So I'm going to go New England to win the game. I'll take the 6 points because I do think it will be fairly close. Because I do think the Raiders are pretty good. All right, guys. Should I just keep it going or should I get to these comments? We got the 49ers and the Giants next. Wow, Bethel says 38-31. Wow. I don't think it will be that high scoring. GSP says 27-20 Raiders. Donnie says 31-27 Pats. Guys, if you're enjoying, Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos and weekly picks just like this. All right, let's just keep it going. So next, we got the 49ers and the New York G-Men. This line is 4.5. The 49ers are favored. I don't really understand why this is only 4.5. I don't think the Giants are a very good football team. Honestly. I don't think they are. I think they're one of the worst teams through 2 weeks. They kept it competitive with Chicago. I get it that the 49ers are heavily banged up here. But I don't know, man. I still think the 49ers, no matter who their quarterback is, whether it's Mullins or Garoppolo, no matter if it's McKinnon, Mostert, or Coleman, I don't care if Nick Bosa is out or Sherman. I mean, the coaching edge is here, and it's very big, just like it was last week in the 49ers' advantage. And San Francisco's offensive line is still basically fully intact here. Like, Richburg's out, but other than that, they got their entire offensive line. Kittle should be back for this game. And if Kittle's back, you guys know how much of a difference maker he is. He's the most important player on their offense. They blew the doors off the Jets last week. They didn't even have Kittle. This 49er defense is still pretty good, even without Nick Bosa, even without Solomon Thomas. They still got their linebackers there. They still got their safeties there. They still got most of their corners intact. Daniel Jones has struggled to not turn the ball over and make dumb plays, although I've been impressed with some of the throws and some of the playmaking ability. The offensive line is terrible. They really can't run the ball on anyone. And Nick Bosa or no Nick Bosa, if you can't run the ball at all, what's the point of the 49ers even trying to defend it? Just tee off on that quarterback. Sterling Shepard is also hurt. Doesn't appear that he's going to be playing. I don't get it. I don't know why this is 4.5. Maybe I'm falling into a trap here. I think the 49ers are going to win this game. I think they're still going to win this game by double digits. I'm going to say something like 24-14 for the 49ers, no matter who the quarterback is. You know, Mullins can hand it off to the left and the right, as Connor is pointing out. And Mullins isn't bad. I think he's probably one of the 5 to 7 best backups in the league. And we've seen him throw the football well in this offense before. So even last week, he didn't look that terrible. I mean, I just don't think the Giants are good. They got no corners. They got no pass rush. I don't know. I'm taking the 49ers to win. I'm taking the 49ers to cover. I'm not quite sure about that line. If anyone can give me some insight into why it's only 4.5, please let me know. But I'm going to go with the 49ers here. The Cincinnati Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are favored by 5.5 points. The Eagles are at home. Guys, this was the game that I looked at and I said, I don't want to pick this game. Can I just straight up not pick this game? That would be awesome. But I have to pick every game because that's the way we roll here on the Bottom Line View. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say the same thing I said last week. The Bengals are going to find a way to cover because Joe Burrow is a baller and they have weapons on the outside, and if it comes down to some sort of a comeback where they're having to throw 50 plus attempts, they're going to find a way to make this game close. So I'm going to take the 5.5. The way the Eagles look right now, they should not be favored by 5.5 versus a high school team. Never mind Joe Burrow. You could argue Joe Burrow is better than Carson Wentz right now. The guy looks atrocious. They are now without one of their 2 top receivers. Their offensive line is still missing pieces. Their defense was running around in circles versus the Rams offense last week. And the Bengals run a very similar system to the Rams. So I do think there's going to be things that Taylor can take from McVay and implement in this game plan. And Burrow is only getting more comfortable week in and week out, week after week. And yeah, I'm going to go with the Bengals to cover. Now, I'm going to take the Eagles to win. Why? This is their last chance. This is their last chance. If you do not win this game, I am not picking the Eagles to win at all for the rest of the season. I don't care if they're playing the 0-16 Browns. I am not taking the Eagles if they lose this game for the rest of the season. Thus far, I'm 0-2 picking the Eagles. So I'm done with it after this game if they lose. Okay? But the Eagles are at home. That's a big factor for me, even though there's no fans. And they desperately need to win this game. Desperately. You got Slay to match up with AJ Green. You got Nickel Roby-Coleman to match up with Tyler Boyd. So they should do, and really Mixon has not found his way in any game running the football. That Eagles defensive line is pretty good defending the run game. And then on the flip side, you just hope that the Eagles tight ends can make enough plays versus these mediocre linebackers of the Bengals. So I got to see more from Carson Wentz. I got to see more from Doug Peterson's offense. I got to see more from the Eagles. I'm giving them one last chance to win this game. One last chance. And if they do not, I swear I am not picking them, and you guys can hold me to that. The Eagles will win. The Bengals will cover. The Houston Texans at the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the top of this, I said there's a lot of great games this week, and I didn't even include this one. Yes, the 0-2 Texans are traveling to Pittsburgh to take on the 2-0 Steelers. But we have to understand that the Texans have lost to the two best teams in the NFL, the Ravens and the Chiefs. That's a thing, right? We got to consider that. The Pittsburgh Steelers, on the other hand, have beaten two of the worst teams in the NFL right now in the Giants and the Broncos, who they nearly lost to both teams. So it makes for an interesting matchup. Now, on both sides, I think the Steelers are starting to piece it together offensively with Deontay Johnson, who might be their best receiver. Yes, I said it. Juju Smith-Schuster, Chase Claypool making big plays, Eric Ebron, James Conner. That crew, I think, is going to keep getting better. I think their offense is going to get better. Their defense, they can't turn the football over, though. There's been bad plays that they've made that have kept other teams in these games. On the flip side, their defense is great, but their secondary is slow. And the Texans do have speed on the outside, so that's a matchup to watch. My question is, can the Texans' offensive line hold up at all versus this front? And will Deshaun Watson just be running for his life the entire game? That's my question. And the Texans defense, I think, is going to get torn apart by Big Ben. I think Big Ben's going to have a 300-plus yard outing. So when I look at this, while I want to say the Texans will upset the Steelers, I don't see it happening. I'm going to go with the Steelers at home to win this game, but because Deshaun Watson's on the other side, and because they're 0-2, and because I think we're overestimating the fact that, okay, they played the Chiefs and the Ravens and maybe they look worse because of it, I will take the 4. I think this is a field goal game either way. It's going to come down to the last drive. I think it probably will be like a mid-20s kind of game, maybe a low 20s kind of game. I just think the Steelers' defensive line will be the difference in this game for one or two more stops than the Texans will be able to make versus the Steelers. So while Watson is awesome and he'll make his fair share of plays, I just don't think it will be enough facing the Steelers. So I got the Steelers winning, but I'm going to take 4 with Deshaun Watson here because I have not been in love with what I've seen from the Steelers. They've been keeping the Giants, keeping the Broncos in these games, right? They only beat the Broncos by 5 points, and that came down to the last drive. So I'll take the 4 with the Texans. The next game is the New York Jets at the Indianapolis Colts. Colts are minus 11 points. The Colts are the far superior team in terms of talent, in terms of coaching, in terms of everything. Is 11 points too much is the only question you got to answer. I mean, is just 11 points too much? I don't know if it is. The Jets are terrible, but the Jets' strength of their football team is defending the run. So I was thinking, okay, maybe I'll take the 11 because maybe this will be more of a defensive game because I still don't trust Phillip Rivers. But then I checked the injury report for the Jets. They got a lot of guys that are hurt, and it's very concerning. On the flip side, the Colts don't really got a lot of guys. I think this is going to be a very similar game to what we saw from the Colts last week. I think their defense plays another great game. I think their offense kind of plugs away. It's nothing too electric, but they keep it going. You know, they are efficient, not extremely explosive. I think the Colts win like 28-10, something like that. So I ultimately do think they're going to win, and I think they're going to cover here. The Jets here's the thing. The Colts cannot allow the Jets to do what Minshew and the Jags did, which was just hit them underneath for easy gains. Because if there's anything that Adam Gase and Sam Darnold do well, it's that short little passing game that can move the football if you allow them to do that and get in a comfort zone. I'm betting on the Colts not allowing them to do that, getting enough pressure after Darnold where he can make some mistakes. And I am counting on the Colts to be able to, with Phillip Rivers, make enough throws to win this football game. So I'm going to go with the Colts. They're at home. They should win, and they should cover with that defense that, it was a little rough in the first week, but they picked it up in week 2. The next game is the Carolina Panthers at the LA Chargers. Guys, before we get to this next game, Gronk, spike that like button and subscribe to The Bottom Line View if you are enjoying and if you are new. All right, the Carolina Panthers, the LA Chargers. This was probably the game that I looked at the spread, and I was like, that seems like too much. I know it's the Panthers, but the Panthers were within a touchdown of the Raiders, and they were kind of competitive at times versus the Bucs. So I looked at the spread, I'm like, 6.5, really? Herbert is going to be the starter because the Chargers doctors are complete and utter idiots, but that's a side point. Herbert is probably better than Tyrod, and if the Chargers do cover this number and they do win this game big, Herbert will solidify his job as the starting quarterback of the Chargers. I have no doubt about it. I was really interested to see what Anthony Lynn said about this game, though, or about this quarterback position on his team right now. He said that Tyrod gives him a better chance to win. He wasn't really praising Herbert at all. He kind of didn't praise him at all. He kind of ripped him, to be honest with you. He was very much in the corner of his guy, Tyrod Taylor. So that was interesting to hear, considering how well I thought Justin Herbert played in his debut. Now, the Chargers do have a really good defense, but the Panthers have a pretty good offense, too. They do. And I don't think their offensive line is terrible. They don't have Christian McCaffrey, but he's a running back. He's a running back. Okay, let's not overestimate, what he can give a team. That's probably, he's a great player, but is he going to be the difference between a win and a loss most weeks? Probably not. He's not a quarterback. And Carolina's defense, while it's not great, it's not like the worst in the league. I've seen worse defenses. Their front is decent. I think the Chargers will move the ball on them, though. But just the fact that they have a rookie quarterback here, I think makes the game close. Because while I think Herbert is going to throw the ball well and he's going to make some plays, and I do think the Chargers are going to run the ball decently, I do think that Herbert's going to make mistakes, and he's going to miss throws, and he's going to make rookie mistakes, which the Panthers can capitalize on. And I think Teddy is good enough, sound enough, where he'll complete passes, he'll know where to go with the football versus this Chargers scheme. And the the Panthers have enough playmakers on the outside where they can make plays on this secondary. So I'm going to go with the Chargers to win again, but I'm going to take 6.5. I think the 6.5 points are too many points. I just simply think it's too many points for a team like Carolina. Carolina they can score on you. And I do think the Chargers play the Chiefs well, but outside a division, outside of a game where they're really up for that game, to pull off that upset, this is kind of a sleepy, back down to earth outing for them. And I don't quite believe in the Chargers enough to say they are a touchdown better than the Panthers. So I'm going to take the Chargers to win at home, but I do think Teddy and this offense keep it close enough versus this Chargers team. And the fact that Herbert is going to have a very volatile performance, a kind of up and down performance weekly, I think that allows most teams to stay in the game. So that's the way I see it. All right, next up, the Detroit Lions at the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are minus 6 points at home. The Cardinals, Kyler Murray is one of the MVPs of football right now. He's just unreal as a scrambler, extending plays, making things happen, making magic happen. And the Lions, can they ever hold a lead? Last week, they were up 14-3 in the first quarter, I think. Something to that degree versus the Packers. Now the Detroit Lions are starting to get a little bit healthier, whether it's up front with Nick Williams, in the secondary, and at wide receiver specifically with Kenny Golladay. Remember, this game last year was a tie. So do I pick a tie here? That's an interesting thing. I think this is the biggest test the Cardinals have had on defense all year. Because I think with Kenny Golladay back, that makes the Lions a pretty good offense, a pretty tough offense to stop. And they have ran the ball fairly well on every team they've played, the Bears and the Packers. The Lions can just not implode here. Now, the problem I have with the Lions is I have seen no adjustments from Matt Patricia. I have seen their cornerbacks really not play well in the back end. I've seen them not be able to get to the quarterback. But I do think the Lions will do their old Matt Patricia, contain the QB, keep him in the pocket, don't allow him to scramble and make plays. That's going to be their game plan. But I'm not sure the back end can hold up without Coleman and without Trufant versus DeAndre Hopkins and these receivers. So I got the Cardinals to win, but again, it's another 6 points. I'm going to take the 6 points. Why? Because I think Kenny Golladay and the guys that are coming back for the Lions keep this game, they make it a lot more interesting to me. I think the Lions can score with the Cardinals in this game. I think they can. So if there is a game in these next 2 weeks that the Lions can pull off an upset versus the Cardinals or the Saints, I think it's this game, because I think the Lions and Matthew Stafford could just win a shootout versus the Cardinals. The Cardinals are riding kind of high. You know, they're all high and mighty. But I do think the Cardinals will win, because I just think Kyler will make one more play at the end of the game. And I do think that secondary of the Lions is very concerning right now. But I wouldn't be surprised if this game was like 30-27 for the Cardinals, or 30-20, like 31-24, so somewhere around there, where it's like a one-score game and maybe it's a field goal or the last second touchdown to win it or put them over the top. I think the Lions, them and the Texans are the two 0-2 teams that I still have a little bit of faith in, because with the Lions, a lot of it's been injury related. A lot of it has been fixable mistakes. For the Texans, they still got Deshaun Watson. For the Cardinals, I'm still not all the way with their offense. I'm still not all the way there. Defense. I'm not all the way there with their defense yet. They beat on Washington, okay. They played well versus the 49ers, okay, but Jimmy didn't play well, and he missed a lot of throws there. They also gave up some big plays. So I'm not 100% there with the Cardinals defense quite yet. If they can shut down Matthew Stafford and this Lions offense, then they can make a statement to me that I'm willing to say that they can blow this team out. But I don't think I'm there yet with them on that side of the ball. I am there with their offense. But they need to get Kenyon Drake going a little bit more. So I'm going to go Cardinals, let's say 30-27, and the Lions cover this game. It's going to be an exciting, under-the-radar game that's down to the wire. Very Lion-like. I don't think they'll blow a lead in this game, though. I don't think that's going to happen. And also, unlike the Packers, I don't think the Cardinals have that rushing attack that can really put the Lions away the way they did a week ago, the Packers did. So, one more time, I'm going to go back to the well, taking the points with the Lions. We'll see how that turns out. And again, Patricia's he's coaching for his job, guys. The next game is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Denver Broncos. This line is only 6. Now, the way I see this game is I think Jeff Driscoll's playing, maybe Blake Bortles. I actually have no idea. The Broncos have a lot of injuries, specifically on the offensive side of the football. I think this is a game, when we look at this line, that Vegas has not caught up with the Bucs yet. I think the Bucs are a lot better than only 6-point favorites versus the Broncos. I understand Tom Brady in Denver, kind of a house of horrors, but one, Von Miller's not playing. This is a totally different coaching regime. A terrible quarterback. I mean, come on, all right? Second, the Bucs get Chris Godwin back this week. When I look at this number, I just don't think people, and specifically people, I'm talking about Vegas, understands how good the Bucs defense is. I honestly don't see the Broncos scoring more than 2 touchdowns on the Bucs. The Bucs defense is legitimately very good, and they have the cornerbacks to match up with Jerry Jeudy and the weapons, Noah Fant. They have the speed at linebacker and safety to do that, to match up with Fant. The offensive line of the Broncos is kind of wavering. It's getting worse and worse every week. And the Bucs front seven was dominant versus the Panthers last week. They got pressure. They defended the run very well. And the Broncos are an offense that need to run the football to have success in this game. They will not. The Bucs are allowing under 3 yards per carry this season to McCaffrey and Kamara. On the flip side, yes, the Broncos defense could give the Bucs offense some issues, specifically when the Bucs try to run the football, and this will mostly be on the shoulder of Tom Brady. But as we've seen, Tom Brady has been accurate. Tom Brady's been on time. Tom Brady has been on the money. Last week, he had 3 drops for touchdowns. And last week, and this season, he's had 8 drops. That's the most in the NFL. PFF has rated him as the 3rd best quarterback from a passing perspective this season. I think this is a game where Tom Brady puts up 27. I think Godwin gets involved. He scores a touchdown. I think Mike Evans scores a touchdown. And when you really look at it, as long as this Bucs front can block the Broncos, and without Von Miller, that shouldn't be too difficult. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are going to have advantages on the outside. So I think the Bucs win this game. They're only getting better offensively. They're only gaining more chemistry, and their defense is already there. They got playmakers. They got a pass rush. They got a secondary. They got run defense. I think the Bucs blow the doors off the Broncos here. They beat the Panthers by double digits. The Panthers have a much better offense than the Broncos, and this might be the worst quarterback the Bucs play all season. So I'm going Bucs to win this game 27-10. The next game, the Dallas Cowboys at the Seattle Seahawks. This to me is one of the games of the week. Seattle is -5 points in this game. Seattle just covered, I believe, versus New England by exactly 5, I think. Could be wrong there. I think it was 5 points. And the line last week was 4. So this is interesting to me. New England going to Seattle was +4 points. Dallas going to Seattle is +5 points. Interesting. I actually think, from what I've seen from both of these teams, Dallas and New England, I think New England is a lot better from what I've seen this year. They seem to be, playing at a higher level, executing at a higher level, and the Cowboys have failed to get out of their own way thus far. Seattle is on fire, and they're only building more momentum offensively. I was really impressed with Schottenheimer last week versus New England. The play calling was awesome, superb. Russell Wilson was unbelievable. DK Metcalf, I said it once, I'll say it again. He might be, at the end of this season, the best receiver in the NFL. And Tyler Lockett is fantastic as well. Their defense is not fantastic, but the strength is the secondary. I do worry about their pass rush. I think this is going to be kind of a shootout type of game. But I like the way Seattle has adjusted. They are not as simple as they used to be. They don't just run one defense all game like they used to. They blitz a little bit more. They get a little bit more creative week in and week out. Jamal Adams is such a playmaker. Whether it's going to be defending Zeke Elliott or it's going to be as a blitzer or it's going to be defending Schultz at tight end, he's going to make plays. The question is, can the Cowboys at receiver just overwhelm the Seahawks cornerbacks and then maybe they can win like a shootout kind of game? And if they can also run the football well, that can keep the ball out of the hands of Russell Wilson. I don't think the Seahawks will have quite as much success as they had running the ball versus New England as they will versus Dallas. But I think they'll have much more success throwing the football than they did versus New England. Russ should have at least 300 yards. I think Seattle, being that this is at home, it's not in Dallas, is going to win. And I do think they'll cover. Not by a lot, but I think that this is more of like a 7 to 10 point game than a 5 to 4 point game, in my opinion. Just because I've not been super wowed by Dak, especially when it's a 0-0 neutral script kind of game. Like, sure, Dak looked great versus Atlanta when they were down by a lot of points, but what happens when it's tied in the first quarter? Do the Seahawks jump out to a lead? If they do, Dallas is in trouble. They're not going to catch up to Seattle if that's the case. They got to jump out to a lead in this game, and Dallas has really struggled to start games these first 2 weeks off to a hot start. They just have not. Now, Mike McCarthy has experience playing Seattle, and Pete Carroll has had some success playing them. And I do think he'll have some things to throw into this game plan, as well as the fact that Dallas has played pretty well versus Seattle and Russell Wilson in recent years. But this isn't the same Dallas defense as they had 2 years ago when they beat them in the playoffs. It isn't. They do have worries in the secondary. They have a lot of injuries. So I'm going to say Seattle wins. I'm going to say they win by 7 to 10 points. I think Dallas has a chance to win this game. I'm not going to rule it out. If Dak's on fire, if Amari makes some big plays, if Gallup and CeeDee can make some big plays. But I'm not necessarily going to bet on them over the way Russell Wilson is looking right now and the way DK is just destroying secondary single-handedly. So I'm going to take Seattle to win this game by at least a touchdown. So I'm going to say that they win and they cover. That is going to be a game I really want to watch because I really want to see how Seattle's defense defends all these weapons. And, they did struggle versus Atlanta. And I do really want to see how Dallas looks versus an NFC contender because we have yet to see that yet. They played the Rams. They kind of threw that game away. The Rams aren't really a contender. They might be a playoff team, but they're not truly a contender. So this is definitely the best team Dallas has played yet, while Seattle is coming off of, playing a top-tier AFC team, a top-tier coach, a top-tier quarterback, top-tier defense. So I think Seattle's more prepared to win this game. And they don't got to go very far. They're sticking at home. All right, 2 more games, guys, and then we'll get to the comments. Before we get to the 2 streams of the week and the 2 primetime games, make sure you do Gronk spike that like button and subscribe to The Bottom Line View for more NFL vids just like this. All right, so right now I have the streams of the week being the Sunday nighter, the Green Bay Packers at the New Orleans Saints, and then the Monday nighter in the Chiefs and the Ravens, the Chiefs at the Ravens. So those are the 2 streams of the week I have right now. I might go with that. I might change it. I might do... These games are just really, really good. So I'm not quite sure yet. Kind of depends. I might have plans during the day to watch the early games and the afternoon games with my friends. If I don't, though, I might stream like one of the earlier games. I do want to also stream Seattle-Dallas as well because I think that's a really interesting game. But there's a lot of games in that time slot this week. So I'm probably going to go with Sunday and Monday night. But we'll see. We'll see. So the first one, Sunday night, is Green Bay at the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans is -3. Right away, I say this line is bad. This line is off. I understand the Saints are coming off a loss. They want to rebound. They're at home still. And that's a big thing. They beat the Bucs at home by double digits, all of that. But the way Aaron Rodgers is looking, he is the far better quarterback. And I don't think Vegas has adjusted to the fact that Drew Brees is not a top 10 quarterback anymore. He might not even be a top 15, top 20 guy. I mean, he looked really bad last week. He looked bad versus the Bucs. He looked bad late in the season last year. I mean, it's been a while since Drew Brees has been performing at a top 10 level. And their defense really worried me last week after looking really good in week 1. Green Bay has blown 2 teams out thus far this season. And a lot of that has to do with how good, how efficient, how electric, and how explosive Aaron Rodgers has been. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's back in his prime. He looks like he did in 2016, 2014. Maybe not the same ability to move that he used to have, but the arm is still there. The accuracy is there. The intelligence is there, as we know. And he has a chip on his shoulder that he hasn't had in a couple of years. Now, maybe Breeze gets that for this week. Maybe Michael Thomas comes back and provides them a lift. Their defense needs to rebound, though. If the Saints are going to win this game, their defense needs to stand up and perform. Now, I think the matchup of the week will be Marshawn Lattimore versus Davante Adams. As long as Davante Adams plays, I'm not 100% sure he will play. If he doesn't, then maybe the Saints have the opportunity here to win. Michael Thomas, is he playing? Is he not playing? That's another question here. I think the Saints got a good enough offensive line to keep the Packers' great pass rushers at bay. But it doesn't really seem to matter how good their offensive line is because they never really need enough time for it to matter, if that makes sense. The whole Saints offense has been short, quick passing game, get the football out quickly. So you're spending all this money on the offensive line. You have all these great assets on your offensive line, all these high draft picks. But Breeze is getting rid of the football that I could play left tackle. I mean, Breeze is just throwing the football to the flat. He's throwing screens. He's throwing bubble screens. He's throwing quick slants. I mean, I could play left tackle if that's all the quarterback is doing all game. So really, does it matter if the Saints' offensive line is amazing? Maybe that's a good thing versus the Packers because that doesn't allow Preston Smith and Zadarius Smith to tee off. What's the status of Kenny Clark? I don't know. I'd have to check that before if I was thinking about betting on this game. From a schematical perspective, I think the Packers are smart enough defensively and aggressive enough to really play aggressive on the Saints receivers and force Drew Brees to beat him with his arm. I think they are smart enough to do that. They do typically play a lot of man-to-man press coverage. And on the flip side, I just don't trust the slow Saints defense versus Aaron Rodgers. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have some time to make plays. He's going to be able to extend plays. And as long as Davante is out there, he's going to be able to hit the big play. So the way I see it, I think the Packers are the better team here. I think they look better through 2 weeks. I think Rodgers is a better quarterback. I think Matt LaFleur is playing well, or coaching well, I should say. And Aaron Jones looks like a top 5 back right now. They're running the football effectively. The Raiders showed that you could run the football effectively. So this is going to be like a game time decision on if you do bet on this game because of the Michael Thomas, the Davante Adams, and the Kenny Clark injuries that are a big deal. And maybe there's not a Darren Waller type difference maker for the Packers to kind of take advantage of the Saints. But maybe they use Aaron Jones and their running backs in that kind of way where they can take advantage of the safeties and the linebackers of the Saints here. So it's a really interesting game. I think it's going to be a very fun game. Of course, whenever you have 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. And obviously the Saints have a lot of questions to answer here. They're back at home. I got the Packers, though. I'm just going to take the better quarterback with the better team that I've seen through 2 weeks. And I think the Packers have enough difference makers and big playmakers defensively that they'll be able to make enough plays versus this Saints offense to get the Saints off the field. And again, like I said on the bottom line, this Saints offense has too small of a margin for error because their quarterback is not creating big plays with his arm, 20-plus yard chunk plays. They're having to go 10, 15 play drives to score a touchdown. And eventually, when you have Zadarius Smith, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith, Adrian Amos, Alexander, Darnell Savage, these guys are going to make plays eventually, right? So that's what I'm counting on for the Packers, and that's why I'm taking the Packers. I'm going to say this is a pretty awesome game. I'm going to say it's like 34-27 Packers. I'm going to go Packers win, Packers +3 on the road on Sunday night. This might be just as good of a game as we saw last week on Sunday night. And this might have a lot to do with playoff seeding as well. Monday Night Football, and then to the comments. The Kansas City Chiefs in the second stream of the week at the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are -3.5 at home in this game. Last week, the Ravens dismantled the Texans, while the Kansas City Chiefs barely beat the Chargers. And honestly, probably shouldn't have. If Anthony Lynn just went for 4th and 1, the Chargers probably would have won. And if Mahomes isn't their quarterback, I don't know if any team could have won that game last week other than the Chiefs. Maybe the Seahawks, but the Chiefs seem to be like the only team that can consistently come back from under, 10 down. This is going to be a great game. This is going to be epic. I think this is going to be billed as the game of the year when we go into it. It's going to have a great pregame show. All of that's going to be exciting. I wish fans were at this game. This is the type of game that you would love to have fans at. And this is why I'm intrigued in terms of, okay, this might be the first of 2 matchups we get this year if this ends up being the AFC Championship game. We've seen these 2 teams play both the last 2 years. The first matchup, the Ravens probably should have won that game, but Mahomes made one of the dumbest throws, I've ever seen. I think it was like 4th and 20 or 3rd and 20 or something like that to Tyreek Hill, running across the field. The Chiefs won that game in a close one, and then the Chiefs won last year. It looked close, or the score was closer than I think the game was. The Chiefs kind of dominated that game, but that was before the Ravens kind of found out their identity and what they were. The Ravens are at home here. That's a big deal. That's a big change of events, because even though there's no fans, I think that does change things. Lamar has been unstoppable thus far this season. Their run game has been unstoppable. We've seen cracks in the armor from a Chiefs defense that played very well down the stretch last year. And Marquise Brown is going to be a matchup issue. Mark Andrews is going to be a matchup issue for the Chiefs. Do they put Tyrann Mathieu on Andrews? Is he too small? Do they put Ward on Marquise Brown? How do the Chiefs defend that running game? And then on the flip side, I think the Ravens match up fairly well. I think Tyreek is kind of an issue because they don't really have anyone fast enough to match up with him. So I think the Ravens are going to kind of double team Hill the whole game. I think you could see them put one of their cornerbacks on a Travis Kelce. And if they don't, that could be a major issue as well. I think this game's going to be high scoring. It's going to be kind of a shootout. But the way I see it is, I think the Ravens offense can kind of keep the Chiefs more off balance than the Chiefs offense can keep the Ravens. And the reason I say that is I think the Ravens, now that they've added Calais Campbell and all these guys up front, they can kind of just play the run game with their front 4 and just ask, okay, if they run the ball, the Chiefs, they love to run like inside zone up the gut to their runner, on shotgun, out of shotgun. The Ravens can just say, okay, we got these big MFers up front that are huge, take up a lot of space, and can just shed blocks, like Calais Campbell, for example. Brandon Williams, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to have to be a difference maker on the ground. on the ground to win this game. And I don't know if he will be, seeing as how the Chiefs have kind of struggled to run the ball, specifically versus the Chargers, who the Chargers played a similar game plan. They played deep in the secondary, everyone back up. Mahomes is going to have to throw short every down to beat us, and we're just going to rely on our front four, our front six with 2 linebackers to take away the run game, and everybody's going to be backed up. We're not giving up the big play. And I think with the Ravens, they can kind of play up front with that defensive line and take away the run game that way, and just in the secondary clog up all the zones if they want play man. And we know with Wink Martindale, they're creative enough to come with some blitzes and come with some creative stuff to attack Mahomes that way, contain him in the pocket, throw him off his game for 1 or 2 plays to get a turnover. We've seen that many times. And then I just think the Ravens, the way they can run it and pass it, the Chiefs' defense is not ready for that, in my opinion, especially without Bashaud Breeland. So I think the Ravens win. And I'm actually fairly confident about this. I actually am. Coming into the season, I wouldn't have said that. But based on the first 2 weeks, the Chiefs have not looked at their peak. They've not looked at their best. Maybe they rise to the occasion here and pull off the win. Would I be shocked if Mahomes made enough plays to win this game? No, I wouldn't. If the Chiefs won, I wouldn't be surprised at all. But just from a pure matchup perspective, from the X's and O's perspective, and from the way Lamar is playing right now, he's equally as good or dangerous as Mahomes. I think the Ravens win 31-24, 31-27. I'm going to say 31-27. That's what I'm going to go with. And maybe if this were in Arrowhead with fans, I'd probably lean Chiefs because that's a big difference. But now that it's in Baltimore with no fans, I think the better, more talented team, and it's not like the Ravens don't have a great coaching staff. They do. So they can go toe-to-toe with Andy Reid. And I think we've seen enough now where the Chargers came out, what they did defensively, it kind of slowed down Mahomes. We've seen Belichick have success versus Mahomes. We've seen the 49ers for at least 3 quarters have success versus Mahomes. We've seen less teams have success versus Lamar, to be honest with you. Only like the Titans and the Chargers 2 years ago. Those are the only teams that have slowed down the Ravens. So I'm going with the Ravens to win. I just think they're the better team in all areas of the game. These are the 2 best kickers too. So if it comes down to a field goal, whatever team has that ball and is kicking that kick is probably going to win. So those are the picks, guys. Baltimore over the Chiefs. Biggest game of the year, arguably. If you guys have enjoyed these picks, before we get to the comments and the questions, Gronk Spike that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Don says, Detroit in the damn building. What's up, bro? What's up? All right, let's take a look at these comments, guys. If you have any questions or any comments right now, please get them in right now. My Fantasy Football says, should I start Mark Ingram? Yeah, I mean, it depends who else you have on your team, but I don't hate the start at all. I think because the game is going to go down to the wire, I think that makes Ingram actually more valuable from a fantasy perspective. And I also don't think the Chiefs' defense is great at stopping the run. I mean, we saw the Chargers run the ball pretty effectively versus them last week. We have quite a few people, Zane, Kansas City Chiefs fan, picking the Chiefs to win this game, so that's interesting. Bethel says, I know we remember Baltimore for choking to Tennessee, but even though they only put up 12 points, they still had 512 yards of offense. That's how good they are. GSP says he has Dallas 40-32. Brian says Sam Darnold should go learn behind Matt Ryan if the Jets take Trevor to save his career. Thoughts? Yeah, I mean, I think he could go a lot of places, and I think he would be pretty good. I think he would be like an average quarterback. I said it when he was drafted, I don't ever see Darnold being a top 10 guy. I don't think he has that amount of skill, but I think he could be a good quarterback in the league. If he goes somewhere, maybe he learns from a veteran quarterback, or maybe he's in a good system. I definitely think he could be pretty good. Like, even if he went like to the Saints after Drew Brees retires, I know they brought Jameis in, but maybe they also could go after a guy like Darnold. I think he would work out there pretty well as well. There's quite a few places he could go and probably have decent success, at least a lot more success than he's having right now. Deshaun says, should I start Aaron Jones in my fantasy team? Yes. Connor says, Mitch, acknowledge the conspiracy that the Eagles made a deal with the devil to win their first Super Bowl and are forever paying the price. Well, no, I don't think I can believe that because, they did go to the playoffs the 2 years after they won the Super Bowl. So, no. Opium is a big fan of Ramsey, says Ramsey's going to lock Diggs. GSP has Atlanta winning 47-22. Hey, Mitch, should I get unbanned from the Discord because I'm a good noodle string now? What? I don't know. You got to talk to Ultra and Durkant. Maybe they can unblock you there. Yeah, I mean, you can look at the stats all you want, but if you watch the game with your two eyes, you could clearly see that Drew Brees has not been himself this year, and clearly he is lacking any sort of arm, which is completely changing the way that teams play him. Teams are catching up on that, and yeah, he could have a great completion percentage when you throw the ball under 5 yards to your running back, and a lot of yards from Yak. I mean, the guy has the least completed air yards in the NFL. He has less completed air yards than Tyrod Taylor, and Tyrod Taylor did not play one game. So, there you go. I think sometimes, like I said this in the offseason, guys, I know Drew Brees' stats are amazing. They're going to be amazing. The scheme is amazing. The offensive line's amazing. Kamara's amazing. Thomas is amazing. But sometimes you got to separate the quarterback from the talent. Like, some people hate on quarterbacks too much because they're in a bad situation, and some guys get too much credit for being in a great situation. Nicholas has the Ravens 37-24. That would be interesting. I'm just not willing to say that anybody will blow out Mahomes quite yet. I've never seen it happen. Christopher says Steelers over Texans 27-13. Bethel says, is Pittsburgh in your top 10 teams? Yeah. Derek says, should I start Wentz over Rodgers? No. Are the Raiders a playoff team? Borderline. Chase Claypool's a beast. Stop it. Don says, Mitch, if Stafford doesn't do it this year, he'll be a New Orleans Saint next year. That would be fun to see. He would be awesome with Sean Payton. Derek says, should I start Wentz over Rodgers? No, I already said that. Dolphins are going 1-15. I don't think so. Mitch, please acknowledge the fact that Chase Claypool has more touchdowns and yards than Michael Thomas. Well, that is true. One of them only played one game, but that is true. Big Al has Baltimore winning 34-28. Good score. I like it. Zane says the Chiefs are winning back-to-back. How do I like Cam, the Bam man in New England, asked Derek. I love it. See my new jersey? I just got it yesterday. I'm pumped. Let's go. Am I rising on Baltimore? I was kind of already high on Baltimore, but the way they've played, I mean, they're clearly the best team in the league. I think that might have been a question to Durkant, though, so I'll just let him answer that. Opium, stop. Ultra says, Durkant, are you rising on Baltimore? So Durkant can answer that. That's questionable because he was very low on Baltimore, and he's completely wrong. Nicholas says, Mitch, you finally have us winning. Let's go. Nicholas, I don't know if you should be happy. That might be a curse. That might be a bad thing. Hopefully it works out for you, though. All right. That is it, guys. If you enjoyed, grind spike the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're watching this after the fact, please comment your opinion, comment your picks. Thanks. It's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate all the support. Guys, do go follow us at the Bottom Line View on Instagram. Also, in the description, you can find the link to the Patreon. You can subscribe $3 a month and get exclusive content, fantasy content, best bets, and more. All right, it's Mitch of the Bottom Line View. Thanks for watching. Peace.